This is Chapter 7b on rounding numbers. In this chapter, we will learn to round numbers to the nearest 10, hundredths, thousandths place, and also rounding decimals off to 2 decimal places. And I will abbreviate it to 2dp. So when we're rounding numbers, we always want to look at the number behind what we're trying to round. So if we're trying to round to the nearest 10, what we need to do is we actually have to look at the tens place, that's 6. Now, since that's the number we're hoping to either keep or change, we actually have to look at the number behind it, the 8. So here's the rule of thumb. If it's the numbers 0 to 4, you round down, or otherwise we know it as staying the same. The misconception is when I say to round down, you tend to take the number down, but that's actually not what we're doing. We really stay the same. If it's the numbers of 5 through 9, we actually round up. So 1, 3, since we're rounding the 6, we have to decide the 8. Does this mean we stay the same or do we round up? Well, since it's between the range of 5 and 9, we have to round the number up. So we keep the 1, the 3 the same. Since we're changing the tens place, that 8 forces that 6 to turn into a 7. And since we're rounding to the nearest tens place, we just make sure we write a 0 behind it. Another way to think about it is we look at the two numbers. 68. Is 68 closer to 60? Or is 68 closer to 70? Okay, so now we're looking to round to the nearest 100. So again, we look at the 3, but we actually have to look at the 6 and see its impact. The 6 is between the range of 5 and 9. That forces the 3 to go up. So we write it as 1. The 3 changes, it rounds up. And then we write 2 zeros behind it. So 368 is closer to 400 than it is to 300. And last, finally, to the nearest thousands place. So we look at the 1, we have to look at the 3 in order to understand do we stay or round up. The 3 is in that zone of 0 to 4, so that 1 is going to stay the same. So it stays as a 1, and the rest of it is zeros. So 1,368 is closer to 1,000 than it is to 2,000. At this time, pause, complete the next two. Okay, so if we did these correctly, 2,789, when we round it to the nearest 10, this becomes 2,790. When we round it to the nearest 100, this becomes 2,800. When we round it to the nearest 1,000, that 7 causes the 2 to go up, so it becomes 3,000. In the next one, 3,495. So this is tricky. We want to round, that 9 has to change. We have to look at the 5. That 5 causes the 9 to go up. However, we can't write 100, we can't write a 10 there, so we actually have to carry it over. So your answer should be 3,500 because that 9 has to round up to 10 and we have to carry the 1 over and add it to the 4. Okay. Now when we round it to the nearest 100, this becomes 3,500 because the 9 forces the 4 to go up, so it has to go up to 500. And finally, to the nearest 1,000, that 4 forces the 3 to stay the same, so it's closer to 3,000. Okay, so rounding decimals to 2 decimal places, it's the same thing. You just pretend the decimal is not there. When we're working with decimals, we tend to round to the nearest whole, 1 decimal place, or 2 decimal places. So if we're rounding this to the nearest whole number, we have to look at the number behind it, because the nearest whole number means any number in front of the decimal. So that 5 forces the 4 to go up. So the nearest whole number would be 5. If we're rounding to 1 dp, we want to look at the 5, we have to look at the 3 behind it. We don't need that 7. That 3 forces the 5 to stay. So this answer becomes 4.5. And for 2 decimal places, we want 2 numbers behind the decimal, so we have to look at the 7 and decide, what does it do to the 3? Well, it forces the 3 to go up, so it becomes 4.54. Pause and complete the next two. Okay, so for the nearest whole number, it would be 16 because the 1 behind it forces the 16 to stay. To 1 decimal place, we look at the 9. That 9 forces the 1 to go up, so this becomes 16.2. For 2 decimal places, we want to look at the 5, and that 5 forces the 9 to go up 1, but that also forces the 1 to go up to 2 because we have to add on 1. So it's 16.2. And then for the nearest whole, that's 6 forces that 0 to move to 1. To the nearest 1 decimal place, the 5 forces the 6 to move up 1, 0.7. To 2 decimal places, the 3, it forces the 5 to stay, 0.65. And that's our end.